can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away. Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it'll cave in and swallow me whole. Wondering how the world keeps on spinning, kinda scared of living when it unfolds. Hard to see the light when everything is dying, waiting for the clear. Thankful I'm alive, but terrified of dying. But hey, I'm still here. Is it bad sometimes? I like it when I lose control. There's something in it that's so beautiful. Listen, I can see the light today, but I can also see the bones decay. I don't know what else there is to say. I'm doing my best not to run away.
You're the night sky trying to make me see your stars, but the dark gets so lonely. Now I see violet, I can feel silence, and the dark's all that I see. When your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound, I'll find violet in your eyes. You'll always be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. Be my night sky. You'll always be my night sky. You're the night sky hiding behind dark gray clouds. I can't figure you out now. I see your blue. There is so much cold in you, and the silence is so loud when you go. I just stay dancing with my shadow all day. Watch the tide. I can't find the point where our two paths align. But you're the night sky. I'm trying to see your stars, but I've always feared the dark. Now I see violet. I can feel your silence. You always feel so far when your stars have burnt out and your heart makes no sound. I'll find violet in your eyes.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Obviously this isn't working because it never does work because it's broken every time, so wait till I get my face up on here. But thank you for tuning in, anybody who's watching right now. We're chilling. So basically we're just going to be talking about the the game here at 5 o'clock. The Chiefs versus the Bills, which is going to be an interesting game. It's just me here and Gigs right now. Tyler's working, Ryan's working, so they will be doing the later game tonight with us Cardinals and Dallas. So obviously you can't see me. Gigs, you won't be seeing him. He's on the phone over here on my left side. It is 4:20, right? Just kidding. All right, let's get into the game. We're just gonna talk about a couple things. I just have some stats I'm gonna throw out there. We'll talk about that later. But first, let's just probably just because people are wondering, anybody who is in here right now, I haven't checked. Which doesn't seem like really anybody. But anyways, we'll get into the bets for today. We'll just start off with that because obviously you can't go wrong, and you want to get that stuff out of the way early. So is there anything specific, Gigs, that you like so far?
I got Sportsbook open right now. I'm looking at it, and it's Kansas City minus 5.5 right now, and the over/under is 54.5. If I were gonna bet, I would take Kansas City minus 5.5, and I'd probably go with the under. Actually, a lot of people probably think this is going to be a really high-scoring game, but I could see it being a good defensive game, even though it's got two really good quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But
Right.
I haven't been doing so hot with the betting. Like I said yesterday, I was like, Jets, they're going to win, guys. Both New York teams. I was only right about one of them. Jets, as you can see, they're getting worse, not better.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah, I mean it's that was really a toss. I mean it's not a bad bet. Yes, you got to win at some point, you'd imagine. You would think, but yeah, the Jets aren't one of those teams, and really makes you wonder what's going to happen with Sam Darnold and the direction in which that's going to go in. But you know, it's gambling for a reason. You know, you don't know what to expect. So whether or not you're wrong doesn't mean you don't know anything. So you know, it's take it day to day, game to game. So let's just go over some of the player props. I guess we'll talk about them. Obviously, anybody who is watching, you know, I haven't shared this anywhere yet, so that's probably why. But let's do that first.
do you have any props you like for the first game?
One. I'm making sure everybody knows we're live. I forgot to do that.
Oh, we live, baby.
Oh, we live, baby. For the any props for the first game? Well, obviously I got to do my signature anytime touchdown score. This one's kind of interesting because, like, you know, I do feel like this is a game where it's not very predictable who's gonna. I mean, maybe the Bills are like that is something I did want to talk about. I mean, the Bills are defensively pretty disappointing compared to last year. So I hit to like remember that and remind myself of that every time because I feel like this is a game where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have a huge game, and he's minus 135 for any 10 touchdown scores. So obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that. But I mean, I do like him, but I mean, you know, somebody else I really like, McCole Hardman. I think that this could be a game where maybe he has a touchdown and he's it's plus 210 odds. I don't dislike that, and I don't think it's that far fetched. But something I bet Ryan Hokie would say if he were here right now, he would say that he thinks Pat Mahomes is gonna run one in. He likes those bets, the quarterbacks, the rushing ones. Maybe he'll differ from that, but. Anything that you like, anybody you think maybe your first touchdown score, maybe somebody on the Bills for any time touchdown scorer.
For running one in, I was originally going to go with Josh Allen, anytime touchdown scorer, but I didn't really care for the odds. I think it was only like plus 150.
Okay.
I do think that Josh Allen's going to have to get it done on his feet a couple times today, and maybe he gets a goal line touchdown. The running backs have been hard to trust in Buffalo. But as far as player props go, when it comes to touchdowns, it's implied that there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game, and I'm not I'm not sure if there's going to be a bunch. Like I kind of like the under for the over under, and I'm sure if the game's over under was like 50 and a half or 49 and a half, that these would have more juice to them. But they're expecting, at least 5 touchdowns today. So if I was going to say there's going to be 5 touchdowns, let's see. No, they think there's going to be, my math's bad. 54 divided by 7. So at least 7 touchdowns. They're implying that there's going to be at least 7. So,
Jeez.
who do you really think there's going to be that many? Because I don't.
Honestly,
Or at least
no. And
that
I
much
was thinking
scoring.
about it earlier. I don't, yeah, like I don't really think that. I think if anybody's gonna score a lot, it's gonna probably be the Chiefs. And I mean, what do you think? What are your reasons? I'll give you my reasons why. I gotta just mess with this really quick. But what are the
Well,
reasons why you
well,
don't
you were
think so?
saying Buffalo's defense hasn't been really that great, especially their pass defense. It hasn't been as good as it was last year. And I think the Chiefs' defense has taken a step forward this year compared to last year.
I agree.
And I don't know. I just don't see Buffalo. Again, they have a shaky run game already, and they're going against a very good run defense. I don't think Singletary, Zach Moss, any of them are going to get it done. So they're going to have to throw. And even though the Chiefs are a team that they're like the Golden State Warriors, where they can put up points in bunches. Like you leave to go get a soda, you come back in, they've already scored a
Right.
touchdown, gotten the ball back. It's like, what the fuck?
They're the kings of splash plays. I mean, that's really what they're known for. They just get those splash plays. And that's why I am concerned for the Bills because, I mean, those are just some of the things that I was figuring out earlier when I was looking into it. So they've let up the fourth most fantasy points in the past 2 weeks. They've only recorded 2 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries. Like, that's it for takeaways, just 2 fumble recoveries. And they've given up over 270 passing yards per week this entire season and 2.2 touchdowns. So, I mean, Ryan Tannehill, he helps him out in the number. It would be nearing 300 if it weren't for Tannehill because, I mean, Tannehill just didn't
He
need
had
to
like
put
what,
up the
180?
number. Yeah, he had 190. So it's just, he didn't need to. I mean, and that also brings me to my next point. Their run defense, it looks good on paper. They've limited yards like Josh Jacobs. They limited him, but they did the same thing to Derrick Henry. He had 59 yards, I think it was, but he had 2 touchdowns. So like, things like that people may look at and go, "Oh, I mean their run defenses are," but Henderson also had 114 yards on them. So that's my biggest reason why I think Edwards-Helaire is going to have a really big game because I do think, I mean, he's been averaging almost 100 all-purpose yards this season, at least in a few games he has been, and I think he's just going to be utilized in the pass game a lot today. And that, like you said, like Singletary, I think that those dudes could be the key to extending the clock, keeping Pat Mahomes off the field, but they're not going to just solely use Singletary, which I think is ridiculous. So, but I think if all 3 backs could be somewhat successful against Kansas City, yeah, it could be an interesting game and it could be very low scoring. But I think if the Bills go out there thinking let's just sling the ball and let's just try to play their version of football, like Kansas City's version of football, they're not going to be successful and they'll get the same results they got last week. Well, on Tuesday, this week.
I would agree.
But
Do you think there's going to be 3 running backs used in the rotation? Do you think they're going to be
yeah,
getting Yeldon in?
it seems like it. I mean, he at least had some production, so I don't see why not. But I just don't understand why you wouldn't want Singletary as a featured back because I think he's in the. I mean, he's not like having breakout games, but the only way that you can have that happen is just by giving those guys snaps. So, but I don't know. Maybe they also think they have a lot more in TJ Yeldon. I don't know. But I also saw this meme. I saved it for the show. Um, Also, I haven't checked if anybody said anything in the chat, but oh, hopefully it'll. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, Gigs, but it's just Josh Allen throwing. At least you can see that, and it says, "Fuck it, Diggs out there somewhere." And that is kind of like they have. I mean, he in a lot of plays you watch, he just kind of fucking lobs it out there. But I'm not saying he's not good. for you Bills fans out there who may get a little bit sad. But there was a Bills fan who did say something to me in the chat the other day. He is worried, he said, after Tuesday's game, and I don't know. I wouldn't be. Would you look at that Titans game as like okay, the Bills aren't as legit, or would you just say the Titans came out and they're obviously one of the best teams in the AFC, but they're also like maybe pissed off about all the talk about them and they just wanted to prove a point? What do you think?
Tennessee, if that makes sense, because they haven't even had their
You're cutting out a little bit. I'll tell you when you're back. We missed just about everything you said so far. Still can't hear you, so just hold on. Well, I'll just make sure I'll talk while Giggs is having some.
facility.
Okay, there we go. We didn't catch you. You just got back. You cut out. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Beautiful. Well, what I was going to say is with that game, I was less disappointed with Buffalo and more impressed with the Titans, if that makes sense, because their facilities and everything have been shut down. They've been relying on Skype, FaceTime, Zoom calls, whatever, and they went out there with a great game plan and executed, and they've got the W big time. So for me, that was kind of like, damn, Tennessee's really that good. And I mean, yeah, there's some things about the Buffalo defense giving up big plays, but that's been the thing all year. Is like Buffalo hasn't been good at being a consistent defense. They're giving up splash plays. Whoa, who do you play tonight? Play Kansas City. So I can see Kansas City getting out ahead early in this game because of that. Am I scared of Am I scared that Buffalo is not as good as I thought they were? No, I still think they're a legit team. You had Josh Allen finally come back to earth for one game, and then all the articles come out saying, should we be worried about Josh Allen? When just a week ago it was like, is Josh Allen this year's MVP? It's like we just live in in a society there. We love to react. We overreact to everything, and I think it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Buffalo's going to be fine. The biggest thing is they got to get the pass defense tightened up, and they got to figure out how to run the ball. And I agree with you with Singletary. I think he's probably the most talented running back on that roster. He's the guy who can do it all for them. Probably not the best at running between the tackles because of his size, but I was pretty high on him last year. I was scared that the Yeldon pickup was gonna, bite into some of his work. But then they drafted Zach Moss. Now you got Yeldon finally getting involved. They just have to figure that out. Like, have a guy, stick with that guy, and maybe the offense can get the humming again. But no, I'm not that worried with Buffalo. I still think they're a legit team, and I think they're the best in their division. I think they're better than the Patriots.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is actually a pretty good point. That this is kind of it. I bet it's pretty exciting for Buffalo fans. They get to say they're better than the Patriots, but also, who knows what to expect with the Patriots? They could turn around at any point. But yeah, no, I don't. I was thinking about it like, and I did see this earlier on a sports talk show. I forget which one, but like like look at Rodgers yesterday, and all the talk this season is this might be the best we've ever seen him, and the MVP, blah 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 blah, and then he has one bad game, and now the narrative is, oh man, is he washed up? I bet you people are like talking about you might see Jordan Love soon, and it's just like, no, relax, it's one game, like, and not to mention the Buccaneers defense was just unreal yesterday. I mean, they were
Lights
relentless.
out.
I mean, that was some of the best defense they've played, I think, in probably a long time. I mean, obviously their defense is good, but they were lights out. And the Ndamukong Suh, that was a little questionable. That one hit on Rodgers, but I'm sure that was frustration that he was wanting to take out for a very long time on Aaron Rodgers. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think
It's been a while since he got to hit him.
exactly. No, exactly. That's what I mean. I'm sure there's a little bit of, God, I've been wanting to do that for a long time. And not that he never has, but you just get that feeling. But no, I mean, you're definitely right. Like, once one player has a bad week, everybody's just and it and people I like always see this about Steelers fans. Well, Steelers fans always do that. It's just the NFL and it's sports in general, you know. And we're all gonna sit here with our Twitter fingers and critique people's play, but like we're not on the field, so it's just funny. And it's the same thing with people in the media. They just one person has a bad game. So I think the same thing about Josh Allen. I don't look at that game as oh, the Bills were exposed. I think that obviously I don't look at the Bills as a Super Bowl contender, obviously, but I do think that they do have a bright future, especially if they can keep some of the guys. Now, something I did also want to talk about that I feel like we'd be amiss to not bring up is the injury report, which is very important, especially for this game, because there are two, maybe I guess you could say three key injuries for the Chiefs that I think could make a little bit of a difference, but in the end, like we were just saying, they have that splash play potential, and that's not something you can predict, and that's not something you can plan for. But Kelechi Osemele and Mitchell Schwartz, both, well, Schwartz is more than likely out. He hasn't practiced. Well, he was full participation yesterday. I don't know. I guess that's good news. But Kelechi Osemele definitely out. Sammy Watkins definitely out. So Watkins not much of a surprise. Kelechi Osemele that is kind of a blow, especially if Schwartz is out. That's a big blow. But for the Bills, John Brown's questionable. He was limited participation yesterday, so I mean that could be a factor for the Bills definitely because I mean that just makes the defense's day much easier. So, and then they also their defense has Tre'Davious White. He was a full participation the last 2 days, so it's looking like he will play. But Matt Milano, limited participation from going full participation on Friday, so that's actually a pretty big red flag, and that's a pretty big blow to their linebacking core. So that could also be something that could make a difference. So hearing that, Giggs, does that in any way change your mind if you haven't looked at the injury reports, or does that make you maybe lean towards any players specifically?
I think the biggest news would be the Sammy Watkins news, and I think it makes Mikael Hardman a viable fantasy option this week. Um, he actually looked pretty good past couple games. So with no Watkins and more targets to go around, I think Mikael Hardman that's a good play because of the Watkins injury. And you said a
Yeah.
linebacker was a scratch for the Chiefs.
No, for the Bills, or unless that's what you're asking, Matt Milano for the
Okay,
Bills. Yeah, which is a big blow, but I mean it'd be a different conversation if it was Edmonds, obviously. But yeah, I don't. And then Dawson Knox is out, which is also, I mean,
that's a
whether
big one.
yeah, whether or not he's the biggest target sharer, losing a weapon is losing a weapon. So that's I just for those reasons the Bills are kind of a big question mark for me tonight, and I don't know. I just don't necessarily
Is
see it.
John Brown playing?
That's the biggest. He was full participation Thursday, full participation Friday, and then limited yesterday. So he is another one that is just like I mean, there's two weapons out more
Going to
than
the
likely.
Twitterverse. We got to know this one.
Yeah, I mean this one is huge because if he's out, I just I think that meme is even more true. Fuck it. Diggs is out there somewhere. I mean, I seriously think that's going to have to be the game tonight because I just don't see any way they move the ball unless the running backs are just going off, which with all three, I mean, you could get something going. But yeah, no,
All right.
I
John
agree.
Brown will be active, and Zach
Mm,
Moss.
Zach Moss is active too. Yeah, he was full participation the last 3 days, so it looks like there was really no question on him.
Thank you,
Um,
Shefty.
what a beast. He
He's
broke
just the
some
best.
very unfortunate news though for Steelers fans yesterday. So shades of Shazier, but
Devin Bush. That's too
yeah,
bad.
it's not as bad as that Shazier injury though. God, that made me sick. Like when I watched that, I couldn't believe my eyes. That's a conversation for a different year. Yeah, no, I do think that though, John Brown, that's actually huge. Then, I mean, that could help him. I mean, it's like we're talking. It's a matter of it could be a shootout unless this is just a shockingly a defensive battle and the Bills' defense comes to play. But I just, given some of the stats I've talked about, I just really don't see that happen. And we do have Tyler Michael in the chat. Thanks, Tyler, for watching. I don't know if you know Tyler, the host of the Aspire Sports Show, by any chance, but you guys have the same name. That's pretty cute. Any questions you got, Tyler? You want to ask us? Ask me and Gigs. I guess we haven't looked at any of these player props, so why don't we do that? We looked at the anytime touchdown scorer. Let's look here. Josh Allen. Ooh, okay, this is a good one. This is actually this is interesting. Under or over 288 and a half passing yards for Josh Allen. We got plus 100 for the over, minus 122 for the under.
I would go over.
Yeah, I like that too. I actually kind of like that. That's interesting. I'm kind of shocked at, to be honest. Pat Mahomes is under over 305 and a half, and it's equal at minus 110 for both. So that's a pretty. I
That's a
mean, that's
coin
pretty
flip.
obvious.
His
Yeah,
passing
no.
yards is always a coin flip because he could go for like 300 in the first half, or Clyde Edwards can have, all that
Yeah.
he could be all they need for the game.
Plus, I mean, we could be talking about a Kansas City Chiefs team that's like not. I wouldn't say predictable or people are figuring out, but there are ways I think teams are starting to kind of slow them down. I would say, especially like uh, the Raiders and the Chargers. So they both kind of set a blueprint for that. Not to say that's what's going to happen tonight.
Those are interdivision games
Yeah,
too. They
no, and
always play each other
exactly.
tough.
But the Chargers defense and the Bills defense, I mean, I don't know. So that's why I'm just saying it's really a question of, McDermott is a really good coach. Could he be like, ooh, okay, I'm going to piece together what these teams have done so far, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. This could also be a game where the Chiefs are like, fuck that. Like, this isn't us. These last few games, it's not us, and they just go out and torch the Bills. And that could really set the Bills back, honestly, too, with having 2 straight weeks of getting torched. If I were a fan, well, we'll see
No,
on
that's a good
Facebook.
point. Buffalo's playing on a short week, and the Chiefs they've had a whole week to get ready for this game, and they're probably pissed off that they lost that game to the Raiders. So I think that's a good point. I think they're gonna come out real pissed, and
Yeah.
they're gonna try to run up the score possibly.
Because I'm sure, like, as much as a lot of the players don't want to admit, they do watch the media. They get into the national media. They a lot of them eat that shit up, and I know that because a lot of players will talk and tweet at like Good Morning Football people. Oh, I love the show. So like, if you're watching that, I'm sure you're watching Pat McAfee and stuff like that. And there's been a lot of talk about, oh, are people figuring out the Chiefs? Is this guy slowing down or not? What blah blah blah. And it's, in my opinion, there's no way that's even true. I mean, after
No,
what we've seen in the last year, I mean, there's just no way. It's just sometimes you're gonna maybe mentally you're going in the game like, oh, we're gonna blow them over, and you're already thinking about the next week. That happens all the time in the NFL. So I think that's just the way it would go. But let's look at some of these other player props. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 72 and a half rushing yards, and it's equal at 110, or minus 110, sorry. So I don't know. I could rushing 72. He hasn't been a guy this year who's been like, go hit 100 rushing yards. He's kind of been like a 50, 60 rushing yard and then 30, 40 plus receiving yard kind of guy. So I actually kind of like the under on that one.
I'd go with the under as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I think he'd be one of those guys that if they're going to really win tonight, I think he's that guy who's just going to dominate. But again, still 72 and a half, I still don't see it, even if they go out there and score 30 plus points. So that actually is, we talked about him earlier, and I think that this is a number. I also like the under on this one, 57 and a half for Devin Singletary. Under.
Definitely like the under.
Yeah, I definitely like the under on that one too. I just think with, especially with Zach Moss being healthy, if Zach Moss, if that was a different story, then actually I would like the over, because I just don't see Yeldon getting that that target share, I guess you could say. I don't really know, but I just don't see him getting the handoffs. I just over Singletary, which again I just think they have a little bit invested in him. Obviously, we think he's better. I don't know. It's just a question. TJ Yeldon, who knows? All right, so let's get into Travis Kelce's receiving yards. I only am asking because I do have him on my fantasy team, and I gotta beat Ryan. I'm only beating him by, I think it's like I forget, 13 points or something like that. So I gotta beat him. Do you like Travis Kelce 77.5 receiving yards today?
I don't have his stats in front of me, but I feel like he flirts with that number all the time.
I feel like he's a guy people bet on all the time, and
People
he's
love
just
Kelsey.
always so close to the under or over. Whenever I see people betting, I always say, "Oh, fucking Kelsey, just need the blah, blah, blah." I mean, yeah, I agree. I think 77.5 is a lot. So,
What would you go with?
um,
I kind of want to
with
go with the over.
I will say, too, that like we said, they are missing Milano, so I think that could really play a role in Travis Kelce just going off tonight. So I do kind of like the over on that one. And especially with their secondary struggles, I don't know. I like that. And then we talked about him, and I like we said, and Sammy Watkins is now hurt, and I mentioned that even before I went through the injury report. I mentioned his name, McCole Hardman, 47.5 receiving yards. I like the over on that one. I do think he's a guy that he might be a little bit featured today. May kind of go off. What do you think?
I like the over. Last game against the Raiders, he had 50. He had 50 yards. He did that on just 2 catches, and he had 81 yards against Baltimore. I think he can do that again. No Watkins, like you said. That's more targets for him. So if he gets 4 or 5 targets, I can see him hitting that number easily.
Um,
You said it was
now,
51 and a half.
for
Hardman.
yeah, for McCole Hardman, 47.5.
Oh, 47. Yeah, I like the over.
Yeah, me too. I definitely like the over on that one. So let's just do a couple more. Game time starting in about
What's
19 minutes
Stephon
here.
Diggs?
Diggs. Let's go to Diggs. He is 82.5, minus 105 for 82 over, minus 115 for under.
All right, I'm gonna go over because so far this year, I think Diggs has hit the over on every game except for Rams when he had Ramsey on him. But
Okay.
he had 49 yards in that game, and then the Jets first game of the year he had 86. Those are his the 2 worst games in the yardage. He's had 3 games of over 100 yards receiving this year, so I'm going to go ahead and bet the over on that. And I don't know what his total receptions are, but I would bet the over if it's at 4.5. If it's above it, but if it's 4.5, over.
Okay. So we do have a question in the chat from one of our very loyal fans, Tyler Michael. Tyler Michael asks, "Do you think the weather conditions will affect the game tonight?" So I'm looking at the weather right now, and here's what I have to say. If it's not snowing, there's no excuse. Yeah? I don't give a shit if it's a little bit of sprinkle, a little bit of rain, a little bit of lightning, thunder, some quick winds. No, I haven't looked yet. So let me look at the. But I do think, I mean, if it's not snowing, and it is, I think it's like probably 40 degrees. I can't imagine it would affect that much. But I think it could affect how much they pass the ball, obviously. So, ow, that didn't feel natural. I think it could affect some of the player
Well,
props we
mine's
talked
saying
about.
50 degrees.
Yeah, I
What
don't.
is it supposed to be like bad or what? I didn't hear anything about the weather.
Yeah, I haven't either. So far I'm looking. Yeah, right here. I don't see anything. It may rain, I guess, is what maybe he's talking about. I know for a fact that this Tyler Michael guy isn't. He's a little bit slow. So take what he says with a grain of salt. There is a 68% chance of humidity, and it's 40 degrees right now. So
It's a little chilly,
yeah,
but I think
eight.
both those teams are used to playing in the cold.
Yeah, and it's 8 mile per hour wind. Yeah, I mean exactly. Especially the Bills. I mean the Bills. They're in one of the snow capitals of the world, of the. I'm not the world of the
They're in
country.
the snow belt.
Yeah, I mean they're they get free. I don't want to. I don't. What's our rule on swearing? They get effed with snow. Okay, let's just put it that way. They get effed with it, right up the F and A. All right, and I just think that unless you're one of these dome teams, unless you're one of these southern teams, West Coast teams, I don't really think that weather plays that big of a role. I mean, we watched Big Ben sling it against the Broncos in the playoffs. I mean, hey, these guys are born in the snow. They were baptized in the snow. They're baptized in the mud, okay? Especially those linemen. They don't give a fudge, all right? So I don't think it's going to matter, in my opinion. Um, Given that read off of the forecast by your meteorologist, Kyle, what do you think, Giggs? You think it'll play a role?
I think they're going to be fine. Andy Reid used to coach in Philly, so he's kind of used to the Pennsylvania brutal weather.
Right.
I think they're going to be just fine. The only thing I get worried about is, like you said, when there's a shit ton of snow and you can't even see downfield, because
Yeah.
then it really hurts the passing game. Not saying that weather isn't going to affect it at all, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to look too much into it. I think I'm going to bet how I normally would.
Well, and like you said about Andy Reid, he's not going to be bothered by it because you know he's going to have a nice warm cheeseburger sitting in his belly.
Absolutely.
So it's going to keep him nice and warm and toasty. He's not going to be that worried about it. So why should anybody
If
else?
Andy's not worried, I'm not
Right.
worried.
No, and if they stick to my game plan that I called Andy about the other day, where I said just feed Clyde, you know, let Clyde glide. That's what I said, and he was
Let
like,
Clyde glide.
he's right. He's like, dude, that's a really good point. I'm gonna have to write some plays up this week and call him the Kyle play. So if you hear any audibles by Pat Mahomes going, Kyle, 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 that's me. Just know that that's because I called my boy Andy and I gave him the plays. No, but I do think if weather is a factor and if Andy Reid thinks it's going to be, look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire having a couple tutties today. And I would say the same about Lev Bell, but obviously that's not going to be he's not going to be much of a factor for a couple more weeks, I think. And
Yeah, he's not playing. He shouldn't be getting like any touches this game.
no,
I
no
just
way.
don't see it.
No, maybe in like obvious like rundowns where they can just do some simple plays for him, or maybe it's just like let's see what he can do. But that's about it. Obviously, he's not going to have the playbook picked up for honestly a pretty sophisticated offense. I mean, there's no way you're going to come in on an off week like that and just do that. So, maybe given an extra day, there's a possibility. No, I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. But yeah, let's just wrap up. Let's do two more player props here, and let's wrap it up. And make sure if you haven't already, if you're in here and you, all three of you, if you haven't liked this video, I'm gonna knock your freaking teeth in if I ever find out who you are. So you better like this video, you better subscribe, and you better give me kisses. We only have one viewer now. No, they didn't like that. Devin Singletary. No, I don't like that one. I think this one's way more appropriate. Wait, why don't they have both? So they don't have a rushing plus receiving for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but they have one for Singletary. That's interesting. So let's talk about it then. Singletary rushing and receiving yards 79.5. Under or over? What do you like there?
I like the under.
Under? So total yards, you don't think he would have? Yeah, I don't either. I agree. I think, like we said, with Moss being in, it's kind of but it's also though, if the Bills do well and this is a game they stay in for the whole game, I think that one of the main reasons would be Devin Singletary is just finally having his coming out game, and I think that's also not that far fetched to think that could happen tonight. But am I gonna bet on it? Hell no, no. And then let's just do one more here. Let's do what would be interesting? Ooh, okay. Let's do these two because they're both quarterback related. Let's do Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen's pass completion. So we got here Josh Allen. I think this one's a little more favorable. 23.5 under or over. The over is minus 128. The under is actually plus 100.
That's definitely a game flow player prop right there. But I'm guessing that they're going to be playing from behind and they're going to have to throw.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead. Let's do the over on that one.
Man, I imagine betting on that under. Man, that would be ballsy. But if you hit that, shit, you're lucky. I mean, that's just luck. Because I agree. I think they're definitely going to be playing from behind all night. So, and like we were saying, it's just going to be him bombing the ball. Him trying to be, hey, I can be Pat Mahomes too. So I think we're going to see a little bit of that. So yeah, so let's go Pat Mahomes then. He'll be the last one. Let's do passing touchdowns for Pat Mahomes. 2.5 under or over, plus 102 for the over, minus 130 for the under.
So I think this game is going to be a little bit lower scoring compared to what is implied. But betting against Mahomes sucks. I think he can get. No, I'm going under. He's going to throw 2 in. Clyde's going to find the end zone. I'm going to go 2. He's going to have 2 passing touchdowns.
So you like the under on that one?
Yeah.
That is a tough one. I just think that the Bills are going to keep this game somewhat competitive for a while, and then I think it'll get away from them. So I do like the over on that, just because I think, like we were talking about, if they're going to let Clyde glide, I think that he's going to have one of each, a receiving and rushing touchdown. And I think that'll put Mahomes over. I think he'll have 3. I think McCole Hardman will have 1, and then Travis Kelce will have 1. Put it on the books. Remember it. And if I'm right, you know what's going to happen. Thrive Fantasy, a nice segue, they're going to send me $1 million. That's what's going to happen. So the only way that can happen, though, is if everybody that watches this live stream, you know, right here, this right to my right, you see that? Use code ASPIRE, okay? Use code ASPIRE, go to Thrive Fantasy. I know Giggs has been looking at it. He thinks they're really cool. He's mind blown. He's like, this is probably one of the best fantasy apps that's ever been made. And I agree with him. So make sure you use code ASPIRE. You go sign up, especially if you're not in Pennsylvania, because you can't use it in Pennsylvania yet. But soon. That is going to happen soon. So thank you guys for watching. Anybody who's watched, especially you, Tyler Michael. You're a very loyal fan. We really love your face. And, let's go. I don't know. I guess Bills? I don't want the Chiefs to be a high seed this year, but the Bills could also have a shot at that too. So, God, I'm really conflicted.
I say go Chiefs. But, hey.
Oh, you cut out. Damn it. You cut out right as we're about to end it. How sad.
Before we sign off,
okay.
So
there you go.
If I mention something that you,
you're good.
If I mention something that's not on Sportsbook, FanDuel Sportsbook, I apologize. These are just a list of player prop bets that are going to be offered on a wide range of apps and sportsbooks that are available. So Devin Singletary receiving yards. Over under right now, 19.5. I like the under on that. Josh Allen, his rushing yards is 31.5. I think he's going to go under that. So I'm betting the under on Josh Allen rushing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire receptions, 3.7 is my projection. The over-under is 4.5. I'm going to go under, obviously. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire receiving yards. Now, this is where we're going to butt heads. 32.5 over under. I'm taking the under. Cole Beasley receiving yards at 44.5. I'm going under. See, John Brown's back. Cole Beasley has been good, but I think with John Brown back, that's a pretty solid bet. Speaking of John Brown, he's going to be back, and his odds are -115 at 45.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go ahead and take the over. I think John Brown has a big game. And that's going to do it for my favorite player props for tonight's game. Oh, Pat Mahomes rushing yards, smash the under, 24.5.
All right, and those are good. Those are beautiful. You're beautiful. Good job. I like it. I like what I hear. This is my little gem. If you're still watching right now, hurry up. You go do this. You go put $50 on Tyrann Mathieu over 5.5 tackles. If you do that, you're going to come to me and you're going to give me $10, all right? Because you're going to win, all right? All right, thank you guys for watching. Thank you if you're rewatching this. That's even better. And also remember, Code Aspire Thrive. All right, thank you.